When avoidants miss you, but still stay away, let's talk about one of the most frustrating emotional paradoxes in relationships. When someone clearly misses you, but still stays away. It can feel maddening, right? You see the signs. They view your stories. They ask mutual friends how you're doing, maybe even send the occasional "just thinking about you" message, but they don't come closer. They don't step in. And worst of all, they don't fight for you. This behavior is common in avoidant attachment styles, people who want connection but fear vulnerability. Now, here's the truth that's hard to swallow. Just because someone misses you doesn't mean they're ready to meet your needs. Miss you, absolutely. Think about you all the time. But are they willing to sit in the discomfort that intimacy often brings? Are they prepared to show up day after day when it's inconvenient, emotional, or messy? Usually, the answer is no. Because for avoidance, love often feels threatening, not because of you, but because of what love requires. And this is where your power comes in. You are not meant to wait around in someone else's emotional purgatory, caught in the space between their longing and their fear. Missing you is not enough. Watching your stories isn't love. Love is showing up, love is choosing, love is action. So if someone with an avoidant pattern keeps their distance, even while sending mixed signals, remember this: you are not the answer to their healing. Their closeness doesn't mean safety, it means growth. And that growth is their responsibility. Your responsibility to choose someone who not only misses you when you're gone, but values you enough to stay, to lean in, and to build something real. Let them miss you. Let them sort out their fear. And in the meantime, you keep walking forward toward the love that doesn't flinch. It's one of the most confusing experiences in dating and relationships. Someone clearly misses you, yet they do nothing about it. You might hear from mutual friends that they talk about you, or they may occasionally check in with a vague message that says just enough to stir your emotions, but not enough to suggest real change. They might even like your posts or watch your stories, leaving behind small digital footprints that make you wonder if they're still emotionally invested. And the truth is, they probably are. But here's what most people struggle to understand: missing someone and being ready for a relationship are two very different things. Someone can miss your smile, your warmth, your presence. They can think about the way you made them feel safe, seen, and wanted. They can reminisce about the connection and crave the intimacy that came with it. But that doesn't mean they are capable of doing what it takes to maintain and nurture that connection. Missing you is a feeling. Being ready for a relationship is a decision. And that decision often requires work that many avoidant types are not yet prepared to do. People with avoidant tendencies struggle to feel safe in closeness. Intimacy often triggers their deepest fears of losing themselves, of being overwhelmed, of needing to give more than they feel capable of. So, while part of them may deeply long for connection, another part of them is terrified of what it might demand. That inner tug of war can paralyze them. They want the comfort of you, but not the responsibility that comes with keeping you. They miss you, yes, but stepping forward means confronting fears they've spent years trying to avoid. And that's where the conflict becomes painfully clear. You're left interpreting signals that suggest they still care, that maybe there's hope, but those signals aren't followed by meaningful behavior. No reaching out to talk things through. No efforts to grow or change. No consistent presence in your life. Just the emotional equivalent of breadcrumbs. And if you're not careful, you'll find yourself building stories around those breadcrumbs, stories that keep you emotionally tethered to someone who's not truly available. It's hard not to take this personally. You might wonder, if they really miss me, why won't they just come back? But it's not about how lovable you are. It's about how ready they are. Emotional availability doesn't come from feelings alone. It comes from emotional capacity. And avoidants often don't yet have that capacity, even if their heart aches in your absence. So while they may miss the connection, the laughter, the intimacy, they stay away because getting close feels too dangerous to them. It threatens their carefully constructed emotional safety. They choose distance over discomfort. Even when that distance causes them pain, they can want you deeply and still lack the ability to choose you fully. That gap between desire and readiness is where most heartbreaks are born. Understanding that difference can free you from waiting for someone who's not ready to walk beside you, no matter how much they miss having you near. People with avoidant attachment styles often carry a deep, ingrained fear of intimacy that shapes how they approach relationships. At a surface level, they might seem independent, detached, or even uninterested, but beneath that cool exterior is usually a complex emotional wiring that sees closeness as a threat rather than a comfort. For someone with an avoidant pattern, love doesn't always feel safe. It feels overwhelming, intrusive, and destabilizing. They may crave connection on one level, but when it actually shows up in the form of genuine intimacy, their instinct is to pull away. This fear of intimacy doesn't mean they don't care. It doesn't mean they're incapable of deep feelings. In fact, many avoidants do feel strongly. They just don't know how to handle the emotional vulnerability that relationships require. Being close to someone means being seen, and that level of exposure can trigger anxiety rooted in early experiences where closeness may have led to hurt, rejection, or loss of control. As a result, they've often learned to self-soothe by distancing. They become experts at minimizing their needs, dismissing emotional conversations, or disappearing when things get too real. This dynamic can be deeply confusing for the person on the other side. 1 minute they're present, laughing, engaging, maybe even affectionate. The next, they've withdrawn, put up walls, or gone silent. And if you're emotionally invested, you might start to question what you did wrong. But in most cases, their pulling away is not about something you did. It's about what intimacy awakens in them. When things start to deepen, an internal alarm goes off. The relationship begins to demand openness, consistency, and emotional risk. Things that feel dangerous to someone who's spent their life trying to avoid exactly that. Even when they miss you, reaching out or staying emotionally close may feel like too much. Their internal narrative might say, if I get too close, I'll get hurt. Or, if I open up, I'll lose control. This is why so many avoidants struggle to maintain long-term emotional engagement. They're not avoiding you as much as they're avoiding the vulnerability you represent. The safer and more emotionally available you are, the more uncomfortable it can feel for them because it challenges the coping mechanisms they've built to protect themselves from emotional exposure. They may long for connection in theory, but when it shows up in the form of real emotional availability, their instinct is to retreat. Sometimes they even sabotage the connection, picking fights, ghosting, or minimizing the relationship's importance, not because they don't value it, but because it feels too intense to manage. That inner contradiction can be heartbreaking to witness. On one hand, they want closeness. On the other, they fear what that closeness might cost them emotionally. It's not logical, but it is powerful. Until they learn to confront those fears and develop healthier emotional tools, intimacy will continue to feel like a battlefield, one they're too afraid to step onto, even when love is waiting on the other side. When someone pulls away but keeps just enough contact to stay emotionally relevant, it can create a confusing and painful experience. They might not talk to you directly, but they'll watch your stories, like your posts, or occasionally send a message that says nothing meaningful yet stirs everything inside you. This kind of digital breadcrumb trail often gets mistaken for connection, but it's not. It's not presence, it's not commitment, and it's not love, it's proximity without engagement. It's a shadow of closeness that leaves you more unsettled than fulfilled. This behavior, while subtle, is emotionally powerful because it gives the illusion that the person is still around. When they like a photo or send a thinking of you, text out of nowhere, it momentarily reactivates your hope. You begin to think, maybe they miss me, maybe they're coming back. And in that emotional space, you may begin to romanticize their absence, interpreting small gestures as signs of deeper intent. But more often than not, they're not reaching out to reconnect. They're reaching out to regulate their discomfort, not yours. These surface-level interactions serve a purpose for the avoidant person. They help them maintain a sense of emotional control. They can keep you at arm's length while still feeling like they haven't fully let go. It keeps you on the hook without them needing to take any emotional risks. You're left trying to decode the meaning behind their online activity instead of engaging in real, vulnerable conversation. And the longer this goes on, the more emotionally drained you become because you're constantly trying to find certainty in actions that are fundamentally unclear. The problem is, intermittent contact taps directly into your attachment system. It creates a feedback loop that resembles addiction. You get a small hit of connection and it keeps you coming back for more, hoping the next interaction will offer something more substantial. But it rarely does. It remains a cycle of anticipation, disappointment, and confusion. You're left in a kind of emotional limbo, always wondering but never knowing where you truly stand. Avoidance may not be doing this to be manipulative or cruel. It's often unconscious, but that doesn't make it less harmful. Emotional inconsistency, even if unintentional, still destabilizes the person on the receiving end. You begin to internalize the uncertainty, questioning your worth, your value, and your role in the disconnection. It becomes easy to confuse someone's lingering presence with genuine effort. But they're not showing up. They're hovering. They're not building with you. They're avoiding depth while still trying to keep a door open just in case. Real connection is not passive. It's not occasional digital signals. It's intentional action. It's someone who communicates clearly, who checks in not just when they feel lonely, but because they genuinely want to maintain the relationship. If someone is truly invested, you won't have to read between the lines of their online behavior. They'll make it known through consistent presence, effort, and emotional availability. Anything less is noise. And that noise is not love. When you care about someone who has an avoidant attachment style, it's natural to want to help them. You see their potential, their heart underneath the walls, and you think that with enough love, patience, or support, you can be the person who finally breaks through. You may even start to believe it's your responsibility to help them feel safe enough to love you back. But the truth is, you are not their fixer. You are not responsible for solving their emotional patterns or healing their past wounds. That work belongs to them, not you. It's incredibly easy to fall into the role of the emotional caretaker in these dynamics. You might tell yourself that if you just say the right thing, offer the right level of understanding, or avoid pushing too hard, they'll come around. And because avoidants often have moments of warmth or vulnerability, you get glimpses of who they could be with the right support. Those glimpses keep you hanging on, hoping that if you hold on long enough or love them hard enough, things will finally shift. But no matter how much you try, you can't love someone into emotional readiness. You can't heal someone who is committed to staying in emotional avoidance. Avoidants often carry unprocessed fears around closeness that can only be addressed through self-awareness and active inner work. They need to choose to face those fears themselves. No one else can do that part for them. It doesn't matter how kind, compassionate, or emotionally available you are if they're not willing to look at their own patterns and engage in the discomfort that growth requires. Nothing you do will make a lasting difference. You may temporarily calm their fears, but the cycle of withdrawal will return the moment things start to feel too close again. What makes this dynamic especially painful is that the more you try to fix things, the more you abandon yourself in the process. You begin to shrink your needs, suppress your emotions, and tolerate inconsistency in the hope that your patience will be rewarded. But instead of earning their trust, you lose touch with your own. You stop asking if you feel safe, fulfilled, or emotionally nourished in the relationship because you're too focused on whether they're okay, whether they're ready, and whether they're going to come closer. Being empathetic doesn't mean taking on someone else's emotional labor. Compassion is not the same as self-sacrifice. You can hold space for someone's struggle without becoming responsible for their healing. You can love them and still walk away if they're not doing the work. Your presence can't replace their growth. You are allowed to have standards, to expect reciprocity, and to protect your emotional well-being even when someone else is hurting. There is strength in acknowledging that you can care deeply for someone and still recognize that they're not capable of giving you what you need. Because healing is not a team sport. It's an inside job. Love is often portrayed as a feeling, a spark, a connection, an overwhelming emotional pull towards someone. And while those feelings are real and important, they are not enough to sustain a healthy relationship. Real love isn't just about how much someone thinks about you, misses you, or feels drawn to you. It's about what they're willing to do with those feelings. Love, at its core, is a choice. A choice to show up, to commit, to communicate, and to keep investing when it's not easy or convenient. Feelings come and go. Choices, on the other hand, are what define the quality and longevity of a relationship. This is where many people get stuck, especially when dealing with someone who has an avoidant attachment style. The person might say they care. They might express that they miss you or think about you often. They might even mean it. But if those feelings don't translate into consistent action, if they don't pick up the phone, make plans, initiate real conversations, or show emotional availability, then those feelings, however sincere, are not being translated into love that you can actually feel or rely on. Inconsistent or passive expressions of emotion are not the same as commitment. Love shows up in effort. It's found in the way someone makes space for you in their life, not just when they're feeling lonely or nostalgic, but when it's time to have difficult conversations or make long-term decisions. Love isn't just about passion, it's about reliability. It's about choosing to be there even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. That kind of love doesn't happen by accident. It takes awareness, maturity, and a willingness to be emotionally present. For someone who is avoidant, the emotional intensity that comes with genuine connection can feel overwhelming. So they often stay in the realm of feelings and thoughts, avoiding the action part because it requires vulnerability and the risk of being hurt. But withholding action while holding onto the feeling gives the illusion of love without the substance. You're left carrying the emotional weight, trying to make sense of their mixed signals and their absence, all while they remain emotionally distant, but still emotionally tethered to you. This can lead you to lower your standards, waiting for some kind of breakthrough or proof that their feelings will eventually lead to something real. But without action, there is no real relationship, only the hope of one. You end up doing the emotional labor for both people, sustaining the connection with your patience and effort, while they contribute very little in return. A healthy relationship requires both people to choose each other consistently, not just when it's easy, not just in moments of desire or regret, but in the daily, imperfect moments that make up real life. When someone truly loves you, they don't just say it or feel it, they back it up with choices. Choices that make you feel secure, valued, and emotionally held. Anything less is not love in action. It's love left unrealized. When someone has an avoidant attachment style, they often struggle to stay close, even when their feelings are real. They might care deeply, miss you when you're not around, and even reflect on what they lost. But they don't move toward you. They stay back, wrapped in their emotional defenses, and while that can stir a lot of sympathy, even understanding, it doesn't create a relationship you can rely on. You end up emotionally invested in someone who is only partially available, and over time, that leaves you depleted and confused. That's why it's essential to protect your peace and continue moving toward the kind of love that actually shows up. There's a significant difference between someone who misses you and someone who chooses you. Missing someone is passive. It's often private. It requires no effort, no accountability, and no risk. But choosing someone means stepping forward. It means making consistent efforts to connect, to understand, and to grow together, even when it feels uncomfortable. Choosing love requires presence, and for avoidants, presence is often what they struggle with most. What makes these situations especially difficult is that the emotional connection often feels very real. You may feel that your bond was unique, and in many ways it was. But emotional chemistry isn't the same as emotional availability. Someone can light you up in all the right ways and still fail to show up for you in the ways that matter most. It's easy to romanticize what you had or what could have been, especially when you're in pain. But the truth is, love isn't just measured by what you felt. It's measured by how they acted when it counted. You deserve someone who doesn't just come close and then disappear. You deserve someone who moves toward you and stays. Someone who doesn't flinch at the idea of real intimacy, who doesn't go silent when things get hard, who doesn't avoid vulnerability every time it knocks at the door. Real love is built through consistency, emotional risk, and mutual commitment. It's not always easy, but it's always honest. When an avoidant stays away despite missing you, it's not your job to chase them or prove your worth. It's your job to honor your value by continuing to move toward relationships that feel grounded, reciprocal, and emotionally safe. That means not settling for breadcrumbs, not confusing emotional intensity for emotional availability, and not waiting indefinitely for someone to become ready. Let them miss you. Let them sit with the discomfort of their own avoidance. Let them confront the space they created. And you keep moving forward toward clarity, toward connection, toward love that has nothing to hide. The kind of love that makes you feel chosen, not just remembered. The kind of love that doesn't show up in fragments, but in full. You don't need to be someone's maybe when you are already worthy of someone's yes. Thank you all for being here and for taking the time to explore this deeply important topic. If you've ever found yourself wondering why someone who seemed to care still stayed distant, I hope this message has offered clarity, not just about them, but about you. About your worth, about your needs, and about the kind of love you truly deserve. When someone misses you but still stays away, it isn't a reflection of your value, it's a reflection of their readiness. Their avoidance isn't your failure, it's their fear. And no amount of waiting, hoping, or loving them harder can substitute for the inner work they haven't yet chosen to do. You can hold compassion for their struggle, but you don't have to carry it. You don't have to live in emotional limbo, clinging to pieces of a connection that never fully arrives. Real love doesn't confuse you. It doesn't disappear when it gets hard. It shows up again and again, not just in words or feelings, but in consistent, present, grounded action. And that's the love you're worthy of. The kind that meets you where you are, that invites you to grow, and that doesn't ask you to become smaller to fit someone else's fear of closeness. So if you're hurting right now, know this. Healing doesn't mean waiting for them to come back. It means coming home to yourself. It means walking toward peace, not chaos. It means choosing to stop chasing emotional maybes so you can be fully available for a wholehearted yes. Thank you for listening, for feeling, and for being open. Whether you're in the middle of this experience or coming out the other side, I want to remind you that you are not alone, and you are never too much for the right heart. Take care of yourself, stay honest with your needs, and keep choosing love that chooses you back. Thank you and goodbye.